There she is. What's up, Kellie? How are you doing today?
Oh, fantastic. How are you doing today?
I'm reading your Latina shirt only because from our past episodes, you talked about the growing up, the duality of being Polish, Mexicana, and just kind of like what they saw, visually versus like what was in your corazon. So today, I feel like you're bringing the heat. So go ahead.
I am, and it is. It's a real interesting kind of. It's always been a very interesting kind of identity deal for me growing up, and my sister as well, because she looks even more like Weta than I do, if you can even imagine that. But it's always been a challenge for us to want to publicly like embrace both sides of our heritage without being ridiculed on one side or the other. So It's just like an interesting thing. But you know what? I've come to a point in life where I am who I am. This is what it is. If you want to know more, you can ask me questions.
We are learning so much about you, about each other. On one of the episodes previously, also you talked about your short haircut, her LA debut. I was watching over the weekend. I was watching Four Weddings and a Funeral.
Oh, yeah.
And do you remember the gal with the red hair?
Yes.
That's what you look like.
Oh my God.
We have finally figured out exactly how Kellie came into a Los Angeles radio station at the tender age of 24, I believe, and just dominated. We were like, who is this girl? Again, she worked on the one team, I worked on the other team, but still we're in the same office. And I was like, she's just got it going on. But, I didn't know that was an overcompensating.
It was, absolutely overcompensating.
I just think this is what makes our show fun. Like, I obviously want to make tons of Billy and Julie, commentary. Like, that's what we're here for. But it's just like really cool because for you and I knowing each other in radio since 2003 and getting to unlock all of these experiences, I'm like, oh yeah, like I've been knowing her for almost like close to 20 years, about 18 years.
Yeah, it's insane.
Crazy because you don't really hold on to friendships that long, which you don't and you do because of social media. I feel like they're fair weathered friendships, right?
Absolutely. But to honestly say that we have a professional relationship and also a personal friendship, not very many people have the longevity that we actually have. And it's really, I'm really proud of that. And it's really nice to have that because, people, especially and it's very relatable to, I feel, Billy and Julie, because you don't see very many of their friends. They really don't have very many friends aside from each other because they're always overcompensating for something, right? So you kind of go and you think back, and my overcompensation for things that I was really insecure about could have come across in different ways to other people, which caused conflict for me, unbeknownst to me, giving people the wrong impressions of who I was trying to be or thought I was, or, whatever. So it kind of like goes and plays into like this episode with Julie always can't ever just be herself because I think she's a little bit afraid of it. And it just reminds me of all of that, like coming up and then finally getting to a point where now I'm like, you know what, this is just what it is.
Yeah. Julie's always in go mode, but in regards to like us or you, I think I was saying this to somebody kind of recently, how like it's almost harder to be in your early 20s than it is to be post 35 years old, because 35, like, it's just, and I once worked a job which was all young people. Reminded me kind of them going to the faux BuzzFeed that they went to today. I worked at a job, Complex Media, and we were doing a show for Fuse TV. And Complex Media is all about sneaker culture. It's like really young, and I just felt like super older or whatever. I got along with everybody, not everybody, but I got along with most people, even though, we just spoke different languages. I mean, I think one day I wore like Target shoes to the job. Like, who does that? I'm like in New York City, like, Ronnie, get some sense. But I was broke. And what was interesting is that like the 20-year-olds have so many things they're setting up in life. I feel like post 35, you're like, listen, I hate to tell you, but I was just you. And I was probably harder working than you and more dedicated than you. And like, there is just a situation where things just don't work out. So honestly, I will say after 35, things get a little bit better. And now that
I absolutely agree. Yes.
Because of all of that, like what you're trying to set up. Now it's just it's a matter of like waking up, scratching your fat ass and saying, is this what I want to do, or is this not what I want to do? It's a little easier.
Also like, it's too exhausting to do that. shit. It's just like, it takes too much energy to quote unquote put on a show about the person you think people want to see, or the person you think you want to, you know, all those things, right?
Yeah.
It becomes life, and people tell you this growing up, and your mentors, your parents, your, you know, everyone will tell you, and you're like, whatever, y'all don't know shit. And then you get to it and you realize, oh my gosh, if I had only listened, it could have saved me so much strife, and just, I wouldn't be so tired.
Yeah, I guess there's a good lesson in, because I've always found really exciting. I think it's because I'm the oldest child. Like I was the oldest of my brother and sister. You're an oldest as well. I always felt like I was yearning for, no, it wouldn't be acceptance, but like I always felt like when I was with my peers, they all knew so much more than I did, and I was a little more shunned because, you know, on the weekends, you know, we're all 12 years old or whatever, junior high, and over the weekends, my peers were doing these really fun things and going to all ages clubs or whatever, and they were like, Ronnie, what did you do over the weekend? I'm like, I went to the McDonald's play place, you know, with my 12-year-old brother, like, or 8-year-old brother. It just, I didn't have all these experiences, so I always had this yearning for like okay, I'll tell you like this. When I was like 10 maybe or 12, I wanted to watch the TV show 30 something.
What?
I always was craving, like, get me out of childhood. I want to be a grown-up. You know what I mean?
You were like Jenna Rink, the 30, flirty, and thriving or whatever, right?
Yeah. I just was always. So anyways, the point of what we were talking about, I think you should, that's just why I would always crave the older, because I felt like I could learn from them. They were the cool ones, you know, we were real young, and they were like listening to Lisa and the Cult Jam. Like, it was a moment, you know. But I'm gonna say now I've been looking at my cousins, her kids, so, you know, my cousins, they're at that age, they're like 15, 16. And I really want to say, I've never really been a fan of like looking at the youth and like kind of getting their opinion as well, but I'm getting at that age of 40 now, 41, where it's kind of interesting to see how much different their life is, their different influences or whatever. So if BuzzFeed lists are going to do it for them, I think they're corny as shit, you know, but I mean, and it's different for everybody, right?
It absolutely is. And I have to say, people love their lists. They love their lists.
Have you done a list before?
I haven't personally done a list. I've been featured on a list, but I've not written a list, but I like to read them. I think they're funny. I especially like to read lists about people that have only lived in Austin for like 10 years and think that they know what Austin's whole culture was. Ooh. And like to see like how wrong everything is.
Do you think
right it is like maybe 10 years ago, but like the basis of what the city is, it's like, no.
I think that happens everywhere though. Like, do you think
it does.
Maybe when you went to LA for what, 18 years, 17 years?
Yeah.
Do you think that you got a grasp early on where you're like, oh, I get it, but then maybe you didn't fully get it? Because I
never got it. I only knew maybe like 4 people that were actually from Los Angeles. Like nobody else, everybody else were transplants.
Oh,
so I
was
really
one.
kind of got, you were like one of like the 4 people that actually grew up in it. So it was like, so no, I feel like I never fully took advantage of actually getting to know this city from that perspective.
Yeah.
I only knew it from our kind of entertainment world. I never really saw LA from like the person with the 9-to-5 regular job that just kind of thought of, you know, I always saw it from the like Hollywood entertainment side.
Shall we talk about Patches? It starts off with them getting a job of sorts. And those offices, they may be cool, but they look uncool too.
I don't want to do my work on a seesaw. No.
On a seesaw. Do you like the open floor plan?
No.
I would prefer that they put more, like, I like the philosophies for sure. Like, let's take it out of a regular office for productivity. But not necessarily like, I don't want to, I like a divided. Well, then that's lame because that makes it sound like I like a cubicle, which I don't really like that either. I would just wish, this is what I would go for. Put the money, company that's hiring Ronnie, put the money into giving me a posh, like dope, like aesthetic. You know what I mean? Like get your design intact. and then let's just keep it regular. I think that works best for me. But there are times
Well,
it's nice
yeah.
to run around the office. Again, at Complex, it was 2 stories, and then you had another 3rd story and a gigantic New York City balcony, terrace area, and they did let you work everywhere. You know what I mean? You just picked up the laptop, you worked everywhere. So I guess in some levels it is kind of nice. You have your desk.
That is nice, but
Yeah.
like just one open room with like long tables, I'm not a fan, because depending on what your role is, you need a little bit of privacy. And also for concentration, like one of the things, I worked in a place where it was just one open room and literally long tables and 3 or 4 people at a table. And it's, yeah, you're in the community and, everybody's around, but also when you have to make phone calls, you have to go outside, or you have to, be in a loud room with everybody talking, or everybody's asking you questions. Everybody wants, needs something. So you never get anything done. So I feel like it's kind of a blessing and a curse at the same time. Like, I like the feeling of openness and being included with everyone, but at the same time, I feel like you do need those little pods to go and be private.
Yeah.
If you need quiet, because that's the way, you depending on what your job is.
See, if I'm working in an office and they say, Ronnie, what do you want done? I'm gonna say, decorate it like you would decorate Kellie Ripa and Mark Consuelos's Tribeca, home. Decorate it like you would decorate Neil Patrick Harris's home in Harlem. Like, I want it to look and feel good. I don't need it to look like video games and like a foosball. Like, I've already been 22 once before. I don't need to do it again. It's really hard to age in the professional setting, don't you think?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's not,
because
no.
I think it's everybody trying to kind of make everybody comfortable, right? And you can't really make everybody comfortable.
Well, fuck them. Just worry about me.
Like, that's kind of the thing that we see. It's like, they had an environment where it was very playful. You could bring your pets or your, support animals and all that with you, which is nice, for people to be able. I like the sense of being able, if you want to go work in a corner or out on the terrace, you have the option to do that, but you also have a private space when you need it. So I feel like it should be a little bit more of a compromise. And in the places I was in, it was either an office I shared with someone, a cubicle, or like one big open room. I never kind of got the collaborative, like, combination of the two.
Yeah.
So,
well, now we're at a new stage too, where remote working.
Yeah.
I personally feel like the remote working I think it's good. I think maybe there's going to be some people who take advantage of it, but I think the remote working is still available. I think if you have a job, why do you have to go get on the train every day and like waste your time? Like, I mean, but you have to be dedicated. Why are you smiling like that? Am I wrong? Do you think?
No, I don't. I think I think it depends on what you do, right? So if you, like, for me as a publicist, I felt like I worked all the time, like literally every hour of the day, because depending on what time zone you're working with, what country you're working with, like, it doesn't ever stop. So working remote was harder for me because there was no stop time. I was literally like always had my laptop. So I'd be working when I woke up at 6 a.m. until, sometimes midnight. And just like taking a break for a minute to like get something to eat, but it's like constant. When you go to an office, you have to break to stop, 1, to get there, 2, to leave. So you kind of get a little bit of a break. So, but I think that's also me. I'm sometimes can be such a workaholic, like I don't stop. So it's like you have to, so working remote for me is a little bit more challenging in that sense, because it's like either it's way to the right or the left. Either I can't get motivated enough to want to do anything, or I'm just doing it all day long and I'd like barely like shower and eat because I'm stuck to my computer.
Well, maybe I'll just marry someone who's rich and I won't have to worry about any of these problems.
Yeah.
The cool thing about this with them, Billy and Julie, at this BuzzFeed type location is, seems like it's a small win, that's coming to them. They just have to be in sort of a trial situation. And then if they do good and their articles are okay, they will get the job. So I think off the beginning of this episode, we feel really excited for them. We usually start with such a negative, like they just can't get anything moving for them. So this feels like there's a lot of potential. Within that, though, we have this problem with Julie, and an audition comes through the pipeline, which I think her reasoning was so brilliant. It was like, oh my gosh, so many times, you know, the perfect person for it is maybe a bad American accent from an Australian. So let me just try. I mean, did you think this was smart by her, or did you think this was? Oh,
No. No, most of the stuff she does isn't smart. No,
I thought it was endearing to a degree.
I think she should have practiced the accent.
Well, that, I mean, she did not perfect it, but Kellie,
She should
she's
have let
bumping.
somebody hear it first.
She's bumping her head against the wall. You know, she's
with
bumping.
her two dogs.
Oh, that just made it weird. So how did that happen? How did that occur? It was because she saw in her office, or the new trial job.
So she painted them service dog vests.
Yeah.
She painted service dog on it. So she could take them.
I love how those dogs are so prominent in this show. Like they are as much Julie's character as anything.
The rabbit.
Oh, wait, and why did she say
this? Terrible, because she says the basset hounds are trained to hunt rabbits. She said, which I find a little, what did she say, endearing or cute or something.
Like it was on brand. Oh, she's so nasty. She's like,
and it's the poor coworker is like crying over her dead rat. I was like, oh my God. And there's no sensitivity whatsoever, which we already know. She's a very insensitive person.
Yeah.
So yeah, she takes her, dogs to work and they, eat a rabbit.
She's like, but that's what they're supposed to do. So let's think about it. At least they are doing what they were trained to do.
She's like, yeah, if that makes you feel better, they're doing what they're trained to do.
Like, how is that going to rationalize the loss? It's like when and I always refer to this, when she puts her finger in the cake when Arthur's got to give it to the PBS birthdays, and then she's like, she thinks she could just grab it, whatever. He's like, no, you can't, mouse pad, you can't do that. And then she's like, well, what's done is done. It's just like, it's never, she has no remorse or no guilt.
She's never apologized for anything, and she even admits it. Like, I'm insensitive. Like, she flat out says it. Like, no, but it's just that poor bunny rabbit.
Well, I'm excited to see her journey with the audition, though. I think she, I don't know. Like, it was an idea that I didn't see going so awry. I can tell you that. I didn't see it going there, And
like, how is she so oblivious that she doesn't understand what's happening? That's always my question. But like, that's always the case for the two of them, right? They make these silly choices, but it never goes past the choice. So you don't really they never step out and look at it until it's too late.
Can I tell you, I didn't look past it either. And I think are you calling me not that smart? No,
I'm not. I'm doing no such thing.
I just really, I did not think I would be siding with them, but I feel like I'm making excuses. I feel like I'm making excuses for Julie.
Yeah, I get your side of it. You understand the reason. The execution was terrible. Well, but it goes back to what I always say. It's always a half-ass, right? Like, if you're gonna do it, then perfect it.
Okay, then to your words, Kellie, you've said it notoriously on our episodes. Like, I don't know if you said cut the line, but she has like this cut the line,
You said it, yes.
Oh, whoa. You take that, son of a bitch. I guess what I'm just saying, fine, if I said it, yes, I guess I said it. I called her, she cuts the line all the time. She just never really thinks things through full intention. Yes. But I'm saying in this case, I don't know, Kellie, when people hit their heads here, there, everywhere, you have to try new things, and it wasn't done efficiently, but I kind of didn't fault her, but I will tell you, yeah, maybe, like,
when they're giving her a medal, there was no, she had a 4-line part. Her audition wasn't, she knows herself, so the questions have to come up.
But here's where I'll argue her. Okay, so I'm defending her now.
Okay.
So they made this accusation. I do like the scene.
They did, not her fault.
Not her.
I agree with you there.
And I just don't think it was one of these situations where she knew it and let it happen. She actually didn't know it. And I think your head could be taken out of the situation. You were trying so much for this thing. You were getting weathered. You've got an alcoholic boyfriend. You got a mother with a metabolism of a 26-year-old. Like, nothing is going your way. I just think there's a world in this episode only. I will defend that she didn't cut the line. She didn't know that they would react the way they did. Like, and then it just became a snowball effect. Because when she was walking up there to go do the scene, she's like going over lines in her head, or not even lines. She's going over lines that she messed up. But she's going over lines, and she's also going over her accent that she's going to be using to pretend an accent. I dare to tell you, Kellie, that I don't think she was swift enough to have known what was happening. And you're saying she
wasn't. I feel like she was genuine. I just can't understand how. But
you're not allowing for the nonsense of a human that she is.
But it also goes back to not being, I guess, secure enough just to go in and be your style, see what works for you, which none of them have really done yet. The one time that we saw her really do that, and I thought it turned out nicely, was the end of season 1 with the Christmas show, where she actually just kind of like sucked it up and did it. And that was great. And I haven't seen her do it again since. And so it's kind of like, you don't always have to pretend to be something that you're not in order to get it. It doesn't always work out for you. And that's what we keep saying.
Or holding up that lie is going to be real tough. And if it isn't tough for you, it's going to be tough for something. And in this case, it was just all of these things coming to her. Will I tell you how much I love for one, Rachel Dratch's character is there. And I love the push and pull we had with the casting director, who already
were both fantastic.
Yeah, the casting director, I think, already auditioned Billy for something else, right? I don't know if that came up yet. But she's in another episode for sure. And she's an oversharer. And it's just so like the back and forth between Rachel Dratch it's very similar to when she was in the diner, and she was like, everyone's life was in disarray, but for like nonsense. Whereas like Rachel Dratch is like, well, my chemo, I need to get to my appointment. And I thought the same thing. Like, this casting director was just everything under the sun. She keeps marrying her one husband, went to go broke up with her to marry her other ex-husband. I mean, it's just so much going on. And
well, it's funny because they mentioned Grace and Frankie, and then they have this casting director that has the Grace and Frankie life, that their husbands, her husband marries his friend. And then poor Rachel Dratch is like, well, I'm cancer free, and like nobody cares.
It's like, I mean,
it's like how self-centered all 3 of those characters are, because they're each worried about themselves. And it's just real. That kind of gives you a glimpse to what kind of happens sometimes, is you get so focused on you don't see anything else.
I was watching an episode of The Real World, Philadelphia. Okay. And there was a girl, and I feel like maybe I should not even. She was crying angrily and having such a hard time with her mother, who was going through her cancer battle. And it was a rough, vigorous cancer battle. And she was mad at the mom. And it was like, it was exactly the scene what you're talking about with the casting director and Rachel Dratch, where the girl, her name was Sarah, she's like, and I'm sure there was more to the scene. We just, get reality TV. And she's like, you don't understand, Mom. And the last 2 days have been crazy. And I've been going through so much. And all I could think is, I'm like, your mother is like right there, and she's actually going through a life defying and forgive if I don't mother, but in the situation, that's exactly what happened. It is hard to watch, but I guess the only defense for that is sometimes you just lose it. You just lose perspective, maybe,
because you get so lost in what's happening to you that you don't look outside that. And I think all of us are guilty of that at some point, where you just get so wrapped up in what's happening to you, you don't see what's happening around you, and how sometimes even what your actions, how they affect what's going on around you and contribute to what's happening to you at the same time.
I guess that's the hard thing.
To admit that.
You have to be able to turn it on and off of what's necessary, what's bigger, and what's more important. But anyways, on a comedic side, that was more serious stuff that I was like, oh my God, The Real World Philadelphia really went here. But I'm also obsessed with the old Real Worlds, by the way. I just can't get enough of them. They're so good. Paramount Plus. the
Well, I know you remember when we had an old real worlder that used to work with us
who?
from Vegas, Steven from Las Vegas. I think that was his name, Steven.
The one from Texas, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever go to the bed with him?
No, no.
He was very good looking.
He was very good looking. No, we became really good friends, but it was never like that.
Yeah, but wouldn't you want to?
Well, I mean, he was hot, but no, we were friends. We had a professional relationship.
Oh my God. Wait, Kellie. Okay, maybe it's 86 this conversation. He was a gorgeous guy. You're both from Texas. I don't see the problem.
It doesn't necessarily mean that that's where it's going to go.
I know, but you weren't wearing your nun dress at the time. You weren't.
Anyway.
Oh, wow. We are moving along. This actually might have to get edited out. Bleep, bleep. Okay, done. Yes, I remember he worked there. I didn't work there at the time, but I know what you're talking about.
yes, he worked there with us for a little while. Anyway, I was just making a real world reference.
I was like, I'm gonna tell you, I've seen Kellie in the day, and she was not wearing her nun dress. She was missing Sunday service.
I have to tell you though how jealous so many of the girls were because he and I were always together, but it honestly was never like that. I mean, he was hot and of course, like very attractive, but then it comes to a point where you just like become friends and you kind of overlook. I don't know.
I'm only also saying it like as a kudos to you, and I won't mention these names.
No, thank you.
I know Kellie, some of Kellie's resume, and let me tell you, she is like her history is. I mean, she you could bag them. Kellie could bag them like with the best of them. Oh yeah. I don't know what you do. I don't know how you do it. You were the originator of the breadcrumbing situation. I don't know how you did it, but I think your PR skills, I think, like, you know. Okay, we're done with talking about Kellie.
I'm just a cool mofo, okay? No, but I read a post where Ice Cube's son, what's his name? I can't think of his name right now, but he had posted that his favorite real world was Vegas, and he like posted a picture of all them, and I was like, oh, Steven.
I just recently watched it also over the weekend because it's all on Paramount, and you put it on the background, do your chores or whatever. It's good. It's not the greatest, but it's good. Yeah.
Well, the biggest drama was like him and that crazy girl Trishelle. Like their relationship was like the whole like pull out from that season.
The pull out. She says, "Damn, let's move on."
We gotta cut all this out.
Cut it all out. Look at you. You know what you're doing? You're setting us up for a desired like Patreon, like, where we have the other conversations, and we'll do a Patreon after a couple of 20 more episodes. Maybe this is kind of saying maybe, but then again, I will have to talk about the times I've been on my back too. So I guess if we're gonna give Kellie her points, I got to get mine as well. So we'll cut all this out. Okay, so what is also going on in this episode? We have,
well, speaking of perspective, I wanted to say we also see where Julie kind of comes to the realization and finally gets perspective on her relationship with Arthur, because he is upset. He comes at her early on where he's talking about taxes and getting like a tax break and saving money by becoming domestic partners. And she shoots him down like right off the bat, where she's like, I got to see the world. You can't hold me down, like whatever. And he's like, you don't even get off the couch to eat dinner. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But she's really adamant about not wanting to become anything that's final, anything with paperwork, anything that's actually, means anything. And he's really noticeably upset to the point where he's waking up in the middle of the night angrily cooking in his sleep. He's sleep cooking.
Okay, that scene just about took me out. I was watching it. I was me and Kellie have watched all these episodes when the show was out, and then we rewatch them when we're getting ready to recap this. And I was watching this one over the weekend. Damn, what did I do over the weekend? All I did was watch fucking TV, you fat fuck. Anyways, I was also watching this one over the weekend, and I was in a mood, like I was in a bitter bitch mood, right? Shocker. And all of a sudden I laughed so hard when Billy looked at the dogs and he goes, fuck you. Have you ever said fuck you to objects? I mean, those are dogs. I've like yelled at things before, like the subway's the train is leaving, or traffic all. I'm like, fuck you. It's like, oh my god. And he did that, and then it was only followed by those dogs causing him problems. Arthur's coming out making noise, and then she has her sleep apnea. Like, that scene was, I don't think it was intended to be that funny, but when I watch it, I couldn't stop laughing. I was like, this is just a wreck, all kinds of stuff going on at once. Oh
yeah, because he's got E. coli at his apartment. First, he can't get into the nightclub because he's not a bear, a jackalope, a wolf, or a whatever.
Yeah.
he can't, so he can't get into the club. So he goes to the grocery store and gets pizza, or goes to get pizza and whatever, and then he can't get into his apartment because there's an E. coli scare, so he has to go stay at his brother's because Julie doesn't answer. And he, we all know how much he loves being at his brother's house.
Yeah. And an E. coli scare, how funny, because like, just thinking about like having a COVID scare, you know, it's all of these things that are like, oh wait, things like this really do happen, you know.
I like how he's like, what is this, 2014? Or like, what did he say?
Right. So yeah, that's the one. That is the challenge. You know, I've been over on the old scruff, and everyone has their preferences or whatever. And I don't know. I think the only thing to really combat that, Kelly, is to go on exclusively after, like, you know, 1 a.m. So you're strictly looking for some action. But yeah, if you are on those things and everything's so divided, it can be overwhelming. You know, it's so specific. You always think about in life, you're like, I think I show up best when I show up, you know. And so whatever imperfections I have, you know, that can, you know, my charisma could maybe make that go away or whatever, or allow me to you know, bag somebody top tier like Kelly has done notoriously for some time since I've known her, but we will not talk about that unless we go to Patreon.
But it goes into, you're right, because it goes into all that, right? Because you got to kind of take different things out of it, because just like it is, like we saw there in kind of like the gay guy groups that they were talking about, that this is how everyone gets categorized. It's like that in every group of people. You get categorized, because even if you have a group of girlfriends, it's like, you know, there's the hot friend, there's the, you know, there's the like the fat friend, there's the funny friend, there's the like just one of the guys' friend, there's
the girl that has
like
connections, or yeah,
you always get labeled as something, you know. And so you have to kind of rely on other things about yourself to kind of stand out in that crowd, to kind of get rid of those stereotypes that you automatically get when you're in a group of, you know, a few people. It just kind of happens.
I think it started off good, you know, with the apps. It was a like almost like a freedom, like an empowerment, you know what I mean? Like, hey, if you want to get your socks rocked or date, usually not the second, you can do all these things. And I think it started becoming bracketed categories, but it did get to a place, you know, some of the people were, you know, their preferences leaned on the side of, you know, Nate kind of talks about like, wait, isn't this almost like a racist situation, you know? So again, it starts off, I think, really good. Like, oh, okay, what are you interested in? You know, what kind of body type is interesting to you, or what are you know? But then it just gets worse and worse. I thought what made that fun though too was how big Marilyn, because, you know, Billy ends up at Marilyn's, how excited she was. She's like, oh my god, like all my patients, my therapy sessions, I know everything about the otter and the bear and all the stuff, the hyenas. But the line that got me was, she goes, oh, what are you doing? Going on your phone looking for some strange. I don't know why I love that shit so much. I was like,
and then you find out how intrusive and invasive she is, because she had a mirror installed in Julie, because he's in Julie's old room. So she's got a mirror there so she can read over her shoulder where she wrote diary entries about her mother.
Yeah. Marilyn's good, but she's very specific. She is a controlled environment, you know what I mean? But she does want to help, but she doesn't want to help you. She wants to help you with the way she thinks it should be held.
She wants to help you to fulfill the vision she has of you.
Well, she tells Billy, she goes, oh, well, we got to do something about those troubled areas. He's like, troubled areas? He's like, I didn't know I had any trouble areas. And he's already in his head, kind of like in his head about like he doesn't fit into a specific type. But going back to the types, I will say, Kelly, I do think it's getting a little bit better, because over the years, people have been a little more in my community. I think people have been a little bit more like, cut the shit. have what you like, have what you navigate, how you want to navigate. But like when you do it in the vein where it just doesn't, I don't know how to describe what I'm trying to say, but I think over the years, like I'll say it like this, there's guys now who maybe in the past it would be like, and I'm, insecure at this moment of my weight, but I'm also very sexy. So that will do me some justice.
Yes.
But it's
Yes.
turned into a new thing. And I think it's kind of the advent of Instagram, to be honest with you. Like it'll be some of the guys that are winning, it'd be the full figured guys. You know what I mean? Like it's not what it used to be. Well, to a degree, yes, there's always going to be in Miami. There's always going to be stuff, market days in Chicago. Like it's always going to be things that will make you, the more average body looking guy, feel very uncomfortable because you're not in the scene. But I think it's changed a little. I think we have had so much growth with like, and I think, even Billy within this show, I was attracted to the show so much because I was like, oh my God, it's so great. Like, I don't know where I fit in. And then Billy, within the character of Billy Epstein, he's like saying that he's like, I don't know if I really like this, but I'm supposed to because this is my community. But he still is proud.
Right.
And I think maybe that's a bad example, but I think through Instagram, we're seeing so many different types of people. And I'll be honest, I feel like it's created such a great space for me to say, Ronnie, whatever you want, you can have. You know what I mean? You just have to.
There's definitely a lot more acceptance that you see, a lot more like body type acceptance and just kind of, being who you are and not being afraid to kind of show that and I think that's a very positive message to get out, especially for young people that don't have, because everything is more visual now, because on the flip side of all that, you're seeing everything in a way that we didn't have to go through. Like, I don't know that I would have handled it if Instagram and social media and all that had been around through some of my wildest days.
Yeah.
Like it just is just crazy.
And there's some new calculations that are going on. So like I said, if it was more the bigger guys, and maybe they would always at that time would feel like, oh, they're not really welcomed as much in the Abbey, or maybe they don't do as well. What social media has allowed for is it'll be the bigger guys be the sexier ones. You know what I mean? Now it's turned around in some ways. Like you'll be like, oh, you with your 6-pack abs, what a basic bitch. It's kind of changed because, what are you going to tell the people that are, doing very well and they're having a career and they're very happy and they are, a different body type. It's, I don't know. It was just interesting to see in the scene. Real quickly though, we always cherish a Matthew commentary that makes no sense because you remember what he says. He's like, I remember something when I stopped tapping that puss or something. I was like, it just is so close to when he said it was only a year since he came out and he had to pack up his dungarees and get on the bus and come to New York City where dreams are made of. You're just like, oh, didn't see that
and
one
just
coming.
With the level of confidence that he says it is what makes it all the more beautiful.
I like all of them in the same room together. Billy, you have Matthew, you have Lola, and even Nate asking the questions. But you're right, labels, can be valuable to understand people, and they could be a bit of a challenge too. So yeah, I don't know. It was good. It was good. It was good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I like too that, when everybody's kind of going through things and Billy is at Marilyn's and, we see Julie kind of have this conversation with him that explains to him, like, you've been Marilyn. This is what she does. You got to get out of there.
Yeah.
Like, you're okay just the way you are. Like, she's just trying to, make you fulfill this idea that she has of you. So get out while you can.
Yeah.
And it's,
how long would you have put up with that?
I don't know, because she does it in such a way that you don't realize what she's doing.
Well,
so,
I was good.
She's so good at it.
I was going to go another.
Makes you second guess yourself. That you're like, oh, wait a minute, maybe I've been living wrong.
Yes, I was going to go another route too, where I'm like, I'm at my shitty apartment all the time. I get to live like lavishly. Maybe I could listen to an opinion of hers or two. And also sometimes, I love the concept of living alone and like, all of those things. It's very important to me. But maybe you do want somebody who's a busybody who just guides your way, and you could be, what do they say? Ignorance is bliss. Some of the coolest people that I've met, I don't consider myself, I'm the opposite. I'm like, what do I say? I'm wound real tight. I'm wound tight. Like, take a beat, relax. But I always like look at these people. I'm like, dang, that person didn't get mad at that. That person didn't get whatever. And I'm like, damn, ignorance is bliss. I wish I was a little more happy-go-lucky like that sometimes. I'm not. I will never be. Was I happier when we met back in the day? I was a jolly fucker.
I feel like you were always happy. Like, I never really saw like frustration too much.
But
granted, we didn't work like side by side all the time, so I don't like, but anytime I ever saw you or was ever around, it was always such a gentle and like genuinely happy energy.
I feel like I have it more now. But you want to know the gag? The gag is that back then in those days, like you said, with your overcompensating of your short hair, how you couldn't let anyone know that you didn't like it, so you had to be a boss when you walked in the room. Back in those days, I'm like suppressing, being, my goal was I got to get on the radio, and is it at that time, if I don't know myself good enough, you definitely are gonna enter that space as a straight guy. And so there's all of this overcompensation where I'm like, I probably didn't even know really how to define what I was feeling at that time. Granted, I was like 21 years old, but the point is the overcompensating, this is like therapy now, was because I'd always defaultly, as a default, I would think, if I get into it with somebody, what does a tit for tat jab look like? And where will the jab go? The jab will be like, boom, boom, boom. You're this, your mama's this. Oh, you got a busted lip. Oh, you're gay. Like, I knew that it was in my best interest to keep it warm. That's why I asked you what your perception was. Because when people tell me now, they're like, oh, you're so, I'm like, bitch, I have been this way.
You're just now getting to see
I've hated a lot of shit, but I'm also very loving in the same way as I've always been. I just feel like back then I was doing the Will Smith loving thing, which I think that shit is a little fake too, if you ask me, which is sacrilegious to say because people love Will Smith. But I think there's something in there. Something's not adding up. You always got to be weary of somebody who's always like this. Yeah. And when I met Kellie, I was like, oh, Kellie, nice to meet you. Oh, give me a big old warm hug. Come on, Kellie, how's it going? And I just feel much better being me now. I think more people liked me then, though.
Well, I mean, that's always the case because they probably thought they could get one over on you. So,
this jolly fucker.
Yeah. Everybody has their reasons for the overcompensating, especially when you're young and you're trying to find your place. And so it's just seeing them kind of go through all of that, because it's not like that you really see that they have very many positive influences around, and the ones that they do, they don't really hear. So it's just kind of like, and then them always trying to do something that's not genuine always makes it that much harder on themselves, which is, it's funny to watch like in the moment, but it's also a lesson there. Like if you dig deeper in it, that it's like you make things harder on yourself when you just don't take a beat and just breathe and just go with what you got.
Yeah, that's true. That's good advice.
And it's hard. It's hard. I remember, I came from a small town, always felt like I didn't belong where I was. And so
you did more to belong. Like you actually worked to.
Yes.
You would not let anyone see that.
No, I always worked harder. And then therefore I was always thought of as a bitch because I wanted people to do a good job, because I felt like if you don't do your job, I can't do my job. And if I don't do my job, they're going to realize I don't belong here and kick me out.
What? Oh my God. Look at that layer. That's similar to kind of what I was saying. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, because I just, a lot of people that I worked with, some of their, parents had money and took care of them and they could do whatever they wanted. I didn't grow up that way. I didn't, I had to bust my ass from the time I was like 14, I was working up until now. So going through all the things and doing all the big things that I did, it was always hard. And I always looked younger than I was. And people always thought I wasn't as smart as I was. And I was a girl. So, and most of the people were men having to deal with that. And then you got I went through my own like Me Too shit and like all of that. And, it's just, it never got easier. It always got harder, because then you deal with like the women coming at you that, need you for something, but they're not really supportive because you're threatening to them. Because if you can do something as well as them or better, they don't really want you. It just becomes a whole thing.
Yeah.
So it just, as I look back on all of my time now, I wish I would have, I guess, not taken all of that so personally and changed my behavior towards it, because I probably would have had a better time.
In what way did you take things personally? Like just by you being angry and taking it home with you, like that? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Like you're kind of hoping you could have let it roll off your shoulders a little bit.
Yeah, that I wouldn't have carried it so much.
That
I would have realized that it wasn't really about me. It was more about them.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And then kind of turning and being the same way, because you remember some of the bosses we had were horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we dealt with our own like Ari Golds from Entourage that was horrible. So then
I know, isn't it funny how that show was that big and it was just all shit? It was like playland for like shit behavior.
Yeah, it really was. And every time I watch it, it reminds me of going through a lot of the same things.
I know, and I was watching Jeremy Piven has a podcast, and he's having the guy who plays Lloyd on there, and they're just always talking about like, did you like it? And I think like I mean, he said everything was fine, but I'm like, there's got to be a part where that actor, the guy Rex, had to have been like, this is like a lot to like. Don't proclaim me as being cool with the group because I could take it. Like this at some level. That's not, I don't want an award for being cool for your fuckery, but that is why Entourage doesn't have good resale value. I would say, our beloved How to Make It in America still can watch to this day. I don't think you could watch Entourage to this day. No, it was a good show. It was a good show. I'm not going to knock, but
I mean, it showed that side of how things needed to change, how things have started to change, and trying to find a good balance. But it was hard. And, my personality was always kind of like, I never really liked bullies. And then it's like, you're dealing with one all the time that has your livelihood in their hand, and LA is a hard place to work. It's a hard place to live. It's a hard place to sustain yourself when you're 25 and by yourself.
Yeah.
So it just kind of, I feel like I should have handled a lot of that. I wish I would have known how to better. I wish I would have taken shows like this and seen it and realized that and been able to do how they do in a sense and be oblivious, to not let it sit there,
Well, there wasn't even shows like this or like
shows too. There wasn't,
so I think everyone just kind of put their head down and just minded their own business. You just were trying to make it in the situation. I mean, what am I telling you a second ago? I'm saying there was literally a time where I said, I specifically remember this when I was on Fuse TV. I remember being like a little closer to feeling like, oh, you know what you like now, come on. And I remember being like, let's just get, I literally, like as a subconscious, not like an actual thought, but as a subconscious, I was like, let's get casted, because it was a 20 episode, like nationwide contest. And I was on a handful of episodes and I was the first runner up. So it's basically, I was the first loser. And I was the understudy. No. And I remember being like, if I can get in, then maybe I can get the job. And then I could express who I am. But I remember it was, that's terrible. But at that time, there wasn't really like, I always look up to like radio personality wise, Elvis Duran. He, for the longest, he was like one of the only gay radio personalities who was at that level. Yes, there was always sidekicks, this, that, and the other, but not like you are the top dog and you just happen to be gay. So, we folded on a lot of things that we should have been like, what the fuck do you, don't tell me, don't tell me anything.
Yeah. Like I wish I would have, I mean, it got to points where, things had to happen to finally get me to get out of those situations or whatever. But I just feel like it would have been better. And I hope people can be smarter but the whole landscape is different. So not that they're not dealing with their own versions of things and all of that, but it's it's interesting now for the better to see that a lot of that stuff people just aren't standing for anymore.
Yeah.
And, and I dealt with a lot of nepotism and a lot of friends working with friends, and, it didn't matter how they treated you. You're just supposed to shut up and do your job.
Well, do you think that, and I'm sorry for what you experienced there. I mean, knowing as much as I know, but not knowing everything. And I guess, like, not to bring it back to difficult people per se, but I guess that's why I sometimes do have the sympathy for them, because I think when you are trying to achieve and every roadblock is hitting, some might just be timing and luck, but some might be the darker things that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, what does one do? They get creative. And that's not, again, a reason to have a pass for some of Julie's bad behavior, but it is like, for like a man, at least, I can't tell a woman how she's going to navigate when I don't know how she's had to navigate. Ooh,
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah. So it's just, but that's why I like to kind of revisit these things and see, and I see the messages that they put in, and I'm able to pull them out from things, because it reminds me about stuff. And not every experience was bad by any means. I mean, I wouldn't have made it like to the point that I did if it was, but it's just, you got to remember, as they do, to sometimes be a little bit oblivious and sometimes just kind of let it roll off and not let it sit with you. And I just wish I would have done that more.
I'm glad you said that, because it's good to keep in my mind, or for everybody who's checking out our show, because with the Twitter generation, I feel like we're just so trained to like, oh, is that what you think? Well, this is what I think. And it's like, where's the space of like, oh, well, that's a dumb opinion, like, just like let them have them and you have you. Or even when I try to watch like little, like the other day I was watching a music over the weekend when I did nothing but eat food and watch TV. I was
like a dream weekend.
yeah. It was basically what I'm saying is every show now, or every documentary, is so like charged up. And I guess, I mean, obviously documentaries always were, but sometimes I'm like, stick to the topic. It doesn't always have to be arced back to like the 45th president. Like, it's just like, stop already, but I think that's what's we've grown very, to your point of ignorance is bliss. We've grown very like, I need to give my counter opinion. It's like, no, you don't.
Yeah. I mean, it's good to be woke, right? And realize that you understand what's happening in the world. But at the same time, some things aren't worth it. Some things are not worth the energy. They're not worth putting yourself on that same plane as what you're so against sometimes. Like, not everything is worth a fight. And that's the hard thing to figure out, how to sift through that. And that was always my struggle, is because I was that way. I'm never going to let, anybody do this, and that's wrong. And you got to know that it's wrong. You can't do those things. And being that advocator, right? Always being that advocator. And you just don't understand. You don't understand. You don't understand. What? When,
well,
they don't have to.
Okay, but I do. Okay, so I'll push back a smidge, only because I've done that too. I don't know if we're talking about the exact same thing, but I'm gonna tell you how many jobs I've lost, because I grew up in a suburb of Southern California, near like Torrance, Long Beach areas, if you're familiar. Not necessarily, Hollywood's, a good hour and a half drive, or whatever the case, 40-minute drive. So it's not that culture. It's a different culture. In that culture, we were around union workers, like on the docks, on the waterfront. So even though I never worked that job, it was around all my family, uncles, aunts, grandfathers, everyone worked a job that had the moral compass of, solidarity for your brothers and sisters within the union. So when I would work in radio, boy, that was the opposite. It was like, I'm gonna step right on your neck in order to like achieve. And you know how many times
I will use you as the stairs to get where I want to go. Yeah.
And a light hustle is always, we could stomach that, but I would always get in these situations where I'm like, oh no, my pay is not this, like I was always standing for stuff. And while I still stand behind all of those moves, a lot of times they're just like, okay, thank you, bye. And I hate that. But then there's that other side where I'm like, if I could have stomached some of these situations, I could have elevated my career a little bit more and build off of that, and then made sure I made a better presentation. I know some whack ass people very much below me, very, very low quality people who have surpassed me because they could roll over and play dead, and just take the crumbs that were coming to them. And I don't know if that's exactly what you're talking about, but I'm only relating to it as far as like getting so charged up. Here I should just be like, let it roll off, Ronnie, let it roll off, and make the best decision, which will help you. Boy, I have lost lots of jobs, Kellie, because I'm like, no, that's not good for all of us. If I take that low ball rate, then we're all going to get screwed, or I've done stuff like that.
Right.
And meanwhile, I've had no job. So
that's what I'm talking about. It's like finding, being able to kind of rein in your kind of like, I mean, and self-righteousness isn't the right word, but it's that same mentality, right? Where you're wanting to do what's right for the collective. And not, because it's like, I have done, always when it comes to negotiating for yourself and all of that, it's always a touchy subject, and I've never been comfortable doing it. I've never been that great at it. And I've kind of set myself back because of it. But I mean, like towards, the most recent years, I finally was like, you know what? F it. I don't really want this job that bad. So here, I'm not doing it for less than this. Take it or leave it, which is what I should have been doing the whole time.
Yeah.
Because they took it.
It's funny. Yeah. It's funny how the bolder you are, the better you can create situations. Not always, but sometimes. It's very much the philosophy of dating sometimes. If you're like, oh my God, I'm feeling you. Let's go on a date. And you're so like a nerd about it, like usually the potential person you're interested in is like, the moment you are gone, they're like, dang, he don't call me no more, like it's like that thing. So you have to play it. But this show brings out these conversations for us, because it is almost hard to believe, because a lot of people who watch it now are like, why are they so bonded to the mainstream traditional platforms? Well, even in 2015, it wasn't as direct to consumer off your Instagram account as it is now. And also
on the way, but it wasn't.
And also maybe the dreams are different too, so sometimes people have a hard time understanding why would they put themselves through this. Well, those were the only ways to navigate, you see. So you had to do so. And
we're talking about even before then, like,
exactly.
having, where you didn't have YouTube to go to do anything, where you had old school. I mean, my first air check tape was a cassette.
Yeah.
Like an old school cassette tape where you heard all that Texas twang coming out.
That's right. I think it's coming back.
It is coming back. I think the longer that I'm here, I think my little draw's coming back.
Well, how you doing, Ronnie? I was like, what?
It is. It's the longer I'm around my family, it's like it comes out. It's fun.
Yeah, that's why no one should have ever made fun of Madonna for having her fake British accent, because what are you talking about? If you are living there, you're gonna pick up some of the tone and the beats and the rhythm.
I mean, my niece watches Peppa Pig and she says computer and strawberries.
Yeah. See, I watch a lot of Love and Hip Hop, so I think I'm a bad bitch, so what you gonna do? Like, I'm over here clasping the air, like,
so that's what's happening.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's talk about this culminated scene here, and we'll wrap up the show. So it's basically all of the worlds are coming together in a really bad way, because Patches is being rewarded. The character of Patches is being rewarded. Kelly's saying that she saw it, she telegraphed it, and Julie should have seen it. I'm kind of giving Julie a little bit of a pass, like maybe she was just too into herself. But regardless, they say let's go.
Well, they kept saying she was special, and she took it as the literary I'm a special person, and they're finally seeing my talent.
Yes.
And, and it was, I will agree that it was their fault for coming to that assumption, which is, kind of rude if you don't really know. And, and it's a stereotype, and it's, it's not necessarily it shines the best light on all of them for their thinking, even though they try to villainize her for pretending to be something she wasn't, even though she was pretending to be something, she wasn't pretending to be that.
In the vein of this being kind of a tough situation to watch, because you don't want to, like, when she finds out what's going on too, while they're at the dinner table, and Arthur's like, oh yeah, I fuck her good, or no, he doesn't say that. Billy says that. So they're in their minds, they're like feeling like they're knowing somebody, which is again terrible assumption, and then she's somebody different. within this sticky situation, almost hard for us to watch, great humor too.
Billy's like drinking his water, being like, "Are you talking like
Yeah,
that?"
yeah. I know it's his friend, so he doesn't like give her the
He's
hard
like,
truth.
"Is that the accent you're using?"
Yeah, it changed as many times as Angelina Jolie's accent changed in Maleficent. So that's what happened.
I like how she's just so like, "What? You thought what? No, that's not what's happening." And then everybody's so upset. And I think there have to be more upset at their coming to those conclusions than they're necessarily upset with her. Because it's like, there has to be some kind of like inflection that you're just like, why would I think that? Right.
Yeah, why would you project that? That's kind of telling
Yeah.
a lot about you, actually.
Yeah.
And then her job, which because they're kind of it's like Julie in this episode was doing good on both ends. She was going to do well with her role. She booked it, she thrived. And then they were going to have the job too. And they lose it all in one swipe because they're basically liars, or at least seen as liars through the 46-year-old boss. What did she say? I'm 46 years old and I got to look like I'm much younger. So yeah, we lose it all.
Also, too, Patches. Look at that character. Look at the outfit. And what they like, that's just not even okay. And the poster that they like, the balloons they drop, and the poster they drop at dinner. Like, I mean, come on.
Well, that's
like,
you
why
are right.
Why does it have to go there? You know what I mean?
That's
like,
true. You didn't make you Showtime executives didn't make it a fully realized character. That's the thing. No. You want to get all your kudos and your PR story, but like it was kind of nasty, It's kind of nasty
when you really get down into it.
So
yeah,
she loses everything.
She gets to be on her own list.
Yes,
of
she does.
25 things that she's worse than.
Oh, what a heartbreaking ending. It's like
but I like that she takes it with gusto and she's like, I finally have arrived because I'm on a list.
How did Arthur react to all that? What was his final, and what made him mad to begin with? Because
he was mad about the domestic partnership, and then she finally agreed before the dinner that she would do it. So he was excited about it. And then you just kind of see them all like, kind of like, what the?
Yeah. Well, assumptions, they make an ass out of you and me.
Yes, they do.
I think that wraps it up, don't you think?
I think so. We never know. I mean, Billy never went back to his apartment, so hopefully the E. coli is under control.
He, if I was him,
to his brothers.
I would maybe, that's an option. I would maybe stay with Marilyn a little bit more because there's just too many perks. Kelly, there's too many perks.
It wasn't worth it. He packed up and went back to his brothers.
Yeah, but that's only because. Oh, and then Marilyn goes, "You'll be back. Ask your sister." Like she's. She's in her. Yeah. You'll be in. She's in her. Marilyn is in her own world. Yeah, I mean, he did that. He packed up, but I think he packed up because Julie pushed him to. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I think she just kind of brought him out of that little like fuzzy haze that Marilyn haze he was in.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe it wouldn't have been such a bad thing for him to lose a little weight and kind of dress a little better or whatever she was trying to make him do.
Yeah.
I don't know. She definitely has magical powers over the mind, I'll tell you.
And it's the way she that's why it makes Julie. Well, we have an episode, I think it's coming up, where Julie and Marilyn get along quite a bit. Because the element of getting along is just because Marilyn doesn't like relax. She doesn't like. Yeah. She always has to fix everyone. Which, by the way, if there was a real Marilyn, I'd say you could come fix our little rickety podcast. And if Marilyn wanted to say, "Hey, you could record in my home. I could get you top tier lighting. I could get you the Fonda 3000, like Tina. Yeah, like Tina.
Yeah, I'm all about it. All about it.
But again, as soon as we were to do it, she'd be like, Kellie, dear, why don't you, maybe you should sit this way. Ronnie, you look like a pig. Maybe you should stop dribbling saliva when you have a passionate sentence. So you're right. Marilyn might not be for us, but there will be somebody.
There will be someone.
What seems like help won't be help at all when it's all said and done.
Probably not. No. We'll still go off on tangents and have the most difficult times ever because that's just who we are.
It's not difficult. So we have, of course, got excited about Billy's rom-com, right?
Yes.
And some of the more announcements have been going on as far as casting. So some of the new roles that have come out were T.S. Madison is going to be in, it's called Bros. Miss Lawrence, who I think is so good. Of course, you probably saw Miss Lawrence on Real Housewives of Atlanta that one time you watched, but Miss Lawrence also played a really good role on a Lee Daniels series opposite Queen Latifah called Star. And Miss Lawrence,
yeah.
When I tell you Miss Lawrence should get the Sylvester biopic if it's ever being made. I know it'll probably go to Billy Porter because of name recognition, but it should go to Miss Lawrence. It should be a star-making vehicle. Not that Miss Lawrence isn't already a star. When I tell you there are some people I get so excited about, Miss Lawrence is one of them because the talent is there, and being in this movie, gonna be some scene-stealing moments. Adding to that, Guillermo Diaz? He's gonna be in the movie. And one of the RuPaul Drag Race girls is also going to be in it too. So it looked like a lot of announcements with the Bros cast.
Love it.
The only way they can make it better is if they had a scene where some punk ass podcasters was in there and they casted us as a duo. Okay, that would be the only way.
Oh my God,
you could make it better.
Oscar gold right there.
Yeah. Although I don't know if my agent is going to say that that's okay. You're going to have to beg me. You're going to have to beg. You're going to have to drop good money my way, because my career is so set right now. I kid. Any last announcements for you?
Just, I'm super excited to continue the season. I have started watching some other great shows, and I think I really want us to tackle like a thriller drama series next.
Oh, I'll let you tell me what.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited about that. I want us to dig into some crazy shit.
Do you think that's because the Halloween-ness of it all is
probably? Yes. Probably.
Oh my God, time out. Okay, let's talk offline about that. Maybe.
Yeah,
we could go anywhere.
I've got like a great series. I think we should think about.
Okay, maybe. Yeah, I was thinking like happy endings to keep it funny again, but like maybe not. Maybe
I want to go a little dark. And
okay.
I don't know. What do you guys think?
No. Yeah. Yes. All of you.
One of you.
Yeah. Tell us shows that are not like thrilling, but like, ooh. I am watching American Crime Story, the Monica Lewinsky.
I haven't started that one yet.
Story. Yeah. And Linda Tripp is played by what's her name? Paula? No, is it Paula? Patton. Not Paula Patton. Not Paula Patton. Halston. Not Halston.
What?
Oh my God, Sarah
Paulson.
Sarah Bareilles. Sarah Bareilles as Linda Tripp.
Sarah Paulson.
I'm sweating. I think the show's over. It's a good show. I'm watching it. I'm done talking.